Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Elestrals deck profile for you. It's been quite some time since I've done one of these, but I finally had time to get around to another deck profile, and hopefully I've got some more coming up in the very near future here. So if you want to see more, definitely feel free to let me know in the comments, and I can definitely try to hopefully provide those a little bit more consistently. I just want to play more Elestrals in general, but definitely wanting to start with the hottest deck of the current format, and that is going to be Lunar Aggro. Lunar Aggro is a deck that has been doing very well in the past few Premier tournaments, pretty much since the debut of Moonrise. We're going to be playing a fairly standard build here, and I'll go ahead and, of course, break the build down card by card before we see some gameplay with it. So, let's go ahead and start with our main Lunar cards. We have a playset of Nabi, so 3 copies of that, with 1 Doppelganger to go along with them. On top of that, we're playing a playset of 3 Werepup with a Leica Void to go with those. And then our final 2 Lunar cards, for the Elestrals anyway, are going to be 2 copies of Specteris. So when it comes to the Lunar side of the Lunar Aggro, this is the package right here. Nabi and Werepup have definitely been outstanding cards from the Moonrise expansion. Nabi, especially with the ability to now fetch Doppelganger, is quickly becoming a staple of the format. But Werepup can, of course, search the Lunar Phase Full Moon to go directly into the Leica Void. I think that one of the biggest strengths of the Lunar element in general, but especially for a deck like this, is the ability to find these really aggressive 2-spirit attackers from deck. So you only need to play 1 copy of each while playing 3 of each of just their 1-spirit counterparts. Nabi is also just very well statted, and Werepup will naturally gain you advantage. So it's like, these cards are already good on, like, without ascending into these forms, but with the option to do that is even better. Specteris getting to swing in as a 5 and also suppress whatever it battles is, of course, also very, very good. So these are going to make up, again, the base of the Lunar aspect of the Lunar Aggro deck. And it's funny, although it is called Lunar Aggro, I find a lot of the time it's kind of more of a tempo deck, in that you're just trying to stay ahead of your opponent, even if just by a little bit, and then snowball that advantage to a win. For the rest of our Elestrals, for Thunder, we are, of course, playing 3 copies of Astrevit. It's an Elestrals deck, so naturally. As well as a copy of Elechik. The ability to search Divines is still, of course, extremely powerful on the 4/1 body there. And to round out our Elestrals, we're playing a few Water ones as well. 2 Eddy, as well as 2 Galaxy. Eddy remains a staple with the ability to basically run over any 1-spirit Elestral for the most part, and then Galaxy, just being a 5 attacker that can mess with water stats, is also quite good. Okay, so there's our Elestrals. Now for runes, for Divines, we are on 2 copies of Zeus. We're already playing a decent amount of Thunder for the Astravits and the Elechik, so if we're going to search for a Divine, it might as well be the Zeus. I think Zeus is also still the strongest Divine, definitely stronger than Artemis. Like, Artemis is, like, situationally good, but we also already have Specteris to suppress things if we really, really need to. And for the most part, if you're suppressing something on your turn, it's so you can battle over it. So it's like Specteris already does that in 1 card anyway. So I think when it comes to the Divines here, Zeus being able to drop the stats of any Elestral, I think ends up being one of these stronger effects. We're also playing 2 copies of Hurricane. Mine are currently mismatched, but these are the only 2 copies I own right now. But Hurricane is proving to be an excellent card in pretty much any deck that can spare the space in both the main and Spirit deck for it. Even if you're only destroying 1 back row, I think this card is still quite good. Plus, kind of a clever move you can do is you can set the Hurricane face down. Your opponent will be like, okay, so my opponent isn't committing to Hurricane, so I'll be able to set 2, and on your turn you can flip up Hurricane. So, neat little, like, a heavy storm trick from, like, earlier Yu-Gi-Oh! Days. But overall, just proving to be very good in this format. And then we're playing a few Invoker and staples, like Earthquake, 3 copies of Ambro, and Resting on Your Laurels. Again, just staple cards that are generally very good. Alright, and finally for the counters, we are on 2 copies of Lunar Phase Full Moon. For a deck like this, I think 2 is completely fine. If you're playing something like Pharaohgeist, where you want to consistently be able to ascend into a 3-spirit Lunar card, then I think you'd probably want to consider a 3rd copy of Full Moon. But we really don't need to see Full Moon super often. In fact, really outside of exactly going Werepup into Leica Void, a lot of the time I find Full Moon is just so expensive to cast that if you're not going Werepup into Leica Void, then the other, I think, best use case of Full Moon, generally speaking, is to, like, secure a win when your opponent's already low on spirits. But either way, those are both, like, not the most situational, situations. Like, you're gonna encounter both of those quite often, but still not enough to, I think, need a 3rd copy. In Lunar Aggro, I think 2 Full Moon is definitely enough. We're playing 2 copies of Tsunami. It's basically the Elestrals version of Mirror Force, so the closest thing we have. Just being able to stop multiple attackers is pretty good. 2 Altar of Stars. This one I'm a little iffy on. I understand the concept, particularly if we go into the Leica Void off of Full Moon. It's going to have 4 spirits off on it, so being able to move those spirits around is quite good. We also have Zeus as another sort of Nexus bank for Altar, but I find Altar to be very situational, and there's some other counter runes that we're not necessarily maxed out on copies of that I might just take out Altars and max out on those, but I understand why it's in here. I just need to do more testing to find some more good use cases for it. Got a playset of Gorgon's Gaze, and then finally 2 PTA and 2 Shield of Achilles. So yeah, I'm currently considering taking out the Altars for a 3rd PTA, 3rd Shield right now. But again, I might just do more testing anyway. So that's the main deck. For the Spirit deck, we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 copies of Owloon. Again, it's Lunar Aggro, so you'd expect us to be on a good amount of Lunar there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies of Zaptor. That's again for Astrabbit, Elchik, and Zeus. 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Leviathan, I think is definitely enough for 2 Galaxy, 2 Eddy, and then the 2 Tsunami. Of course, we have the Taratlus for the Earthquakes, and then the Lycaris for Hurricane. So there is our list. Why don't we go ahead and check out this game? Alright, heading on into this gameplay here. We're going to be up against Case Ojama. And as mentioned at the top of the video, this is going to be a Lunar Aggro mirror match. Case is going to be taking the first turn here, starting off with the Astrabbit in defense mode. Going to look at the top 3 here. Queso and I were talking about Lunar Aggro going first versus going second, and he made a pretty good point that a lot of the time it's actually not bad to go second, to the point where you might actually even want to consider going second when playing this deck. Think about it, right? While Werepup is an extremely good turn 1 play, we have more turn 1 plays that are better going second, right? With the Specteris as well as the Nobby and Eddy. Astrabbit, you could argue, is good going first or second. I guess the same is true of Werepup, but Astrabbit and Werepup I think tend to be better if you are going first. But anyway, just some food for thought there. Alright, Kiso grabbing that card off the bunny there, setting 1 card face down before ultimately passing over to me. Yeah, especially on turn 1, setting more than 1 back row is a pretty tricky prospect, especially in the wake of something like the card I'm about to play here in a second. I'm just waiting for it. It's Hurricane. I'm just going to spoil it. It's Hurricane. There it is. Yep. So even though Kiso only has 1 face down, I am going to use the Hurricane on it. And I do think that is worth it. I could see a lot of players kind of getting caught in this trap where they try to wait to 2 for 1 before they commit to using the Hurricane. But I think especially on turn 1, even if the opponent only has 1 face down, it is definitely better to just go ahead and fire that off sooner rather than later. Right? Because otherwise then you are going to want to set back rows face down, and then you're going to have to kind of commit to, do I want to blow my own up, or do I want to wait for, me to be able to use mine before I activate the Hurricane, etc. So, yeah, opening Hurricane plus Elchik. Elchik, another good going second play, but especially Hurricane plus Elchik is a fantastic going second turn 1 move here. I can get rid of that face down Gorgon's Gaze, set my own face down card before attacking into the Astrabbit. Of course, we had weakened it with the Zeus there, so I only had 2 defense left at that point, but Yeah, we're in a very, very good spot. And this is what I mean by this being more of lunar tempo, really, than aggro. Just that whole turn there was just such high tempo. The Hurricane for Gorgons was a 1-for-1 as opposed to a 2-for-1, sure. But Elechic into Zeus is just always going to be a fantastic example of a very high tempo play, right? Because not only did the Elechic plus Zeus out the Astrabit that was currently on board, but now the Zeus threatens to out future cards here, so... Okay, so go into the Nabi here, that will, of course, drop my Elchic's attack by 2 for this turn, since it is not Lunar or Solar Enchanted. On the attack step here, I'm going to use Gorgon's Gaze to basically negate Nabi's attack. Paying a couple of Lunar to do that. I think it's worth noting, too, by the way, that we're only going to be showing one game from this match, but Queso did actually end up winning this match as a whole. Just want to make sure that I pointed that out there. But as to who will win this one game is still yet to be seen. We're going to Werepup for the full moon here. I think this is a very good opportunity to do this, right? Queso doesn't have any face down, so it's not like we could be walking into a Gorgons. Even then, I think it'd still be fine to play Werepup here. Because if it eats a back row, that's completely fine. But otherwise, we just get some more advantage and find the full moon and get to add that to our hand. Alright, now at this point, the Nabi effect has worn off, so I could just crash Elechic into the Nabi, but I think I'd probably just still want to use the Zeus effect here, even if it is the last activation. I think that's fine. I could have definitely, I don't know, I could have considered enchanting 3 Thunder to the Zeus instead of only 2, but with only 5 Thunder Spirits total, you know, it's such a... potentially bleak prospect. I didn't want to... Because, like, there's so... I don't know. I could still see a world where... I don't know. I would still have one more Thunder left at that point. If I drew an Astrabit, that would be fine. I'd probably find an Amber before I need another Astrabit. You know what? I think I definitely should have just put a 3rd Thunder on that Zeus. Knowing what was in the rest of my hand, especially. This is kind of one of those situations where I'm sitting on an Altar of Stars, but I don't really want to set it because... it's not super optimal here, and I don't want to get blown out by a hurricane. No pun intended. So, that's kind of why, again, I'm considering cutting Altar for just 3rd PTA and or Shield. Maybe not even another counter rune. Maybe I just do 3rd PTA and, like, just another card I kind of want to play. Which one would that even be, honestly? I don't know. 3rd Eddy, 3rd Specteris, possibly. I can see 3rd Specteris. Specteris is, like... although much better, I think, going 2nd than 1st. I don't think it's a bad going 1st play either. I mean, it's a 5, if nothing else. It's a decent body, right? Okay, so debating if he wants to play the Zeus there or not. Going to commit to the Nabi. It's pretty easy to guess what my back row is. Probably it's the just the full moon that I just searched off Werepup, but... Queso does still have a clean attack into the Elechic here with the Nabi. Of course, again, the Nabi giving the Elechic -2 attack. Anything that's not Lunar or Solar Enchanted. You know, the exemption of Solar Enchantment cards actually is very relevant for Solar decks, honestly, with the Nabi. Because Nabi is not just seeing play in Lunar decks like Lunar Aggro, but honestly, just a lot of decks in general, like 5s or other tempo-style decks, too. Because it's just such high tempo value, right? Not only does the Nabi make the whole board, well, you know, again, anything not Lunar or Solar Enchanted easier to run over, but being able to go into the Doppelganger after you battle over something is so, so good. Being able to swing in for 2 spirits after, again, already taking the board by battling over an opponent's Elestral is just very, very good. But of course here, Doppelganger... not quite as good, because Queso does know, of course, that my face down is full moon, meaning if I were to just go into, or if you were to just go into battle here, then I could just simply activate the full moon. Now, I would want to activate the full moon during attack step, because here's a fun rulings thing that Queso and I found out together as well. So the way that Ascension works during battle, if you activate Full Moon with, like, Werepup after an attack has been declared, if you use it during the attack step, then you can redeclare. But if you use it during the battle step, then it becomes a, what do you call it? A direct attack, actually. because you can't change targets during the battle step. Okay, so here I'm going for the full moon after I expend a draw. The reason I did it in that order is because I already had the Leica Void in hand. I actually opened the Leica Void in my opening hand. I almost mulliganed for that reason, but I also opened, again, Elechick and Hurricane. I think I also had the Werepup in my opening hand as well. So I wasn't really keen on giving all that up just because I opened Leica Void. I figured it was fine to have it in my hand. Not ideal, obviously, but not the end of the world. So, again, that's why I expended a draw there before actually going for the full moon. Alright, now, at this point, I can't play an Elestral again because I expended a draw. We played an Ambro there to get back some Lunar, setting a face-down card before going into combat and running over the Doppelgator with the Force Spirit Leica Void. See, that's another thing about Altar of Stars, right? Like, the Altar of Stars that I'm pretty sure is just still in my hand. I think I opened with that as well. It's still not great in a situation like this, because, yeah, I have the Force Spirit Leica Void, but I don't have anything to Nexus to. That's, again, the thing about Altar of Stars in this deck. I can see where when it goes off, it's just really good, but I can also... I've had situations like this where it's not. Okay, so going to Hurricane my one face down. It's a Shield of Achilles. Before going for the Zeus here. Yeah, I knew that Zeus was in hand, so that's why I set the shield here, unfortunately, again. Kiso had the shield, or not the shield, the Hurricane for my shield. Also with an Elechick here to find another copy of Zeus. So that's a little bit scary. Especially because we only have 2 cards left in hand. Like, we started off this game really strong, but we're in a situation now where things are actually not looking... the most great for us here. Yeah, really looking to top deck. Nabi would be a pretty good top deck, potentially. Actually, Nabi would be a great top deck. That's probably about the best we can hope for here. Okay, so going for an Ambro. Gonna restock on some spirits there. Looks like 2 Thunder and a Lunar. I actually don't know how similar Queso and I's builds are. I mean, obviously, again, it's a mirror match, but we might still be a couple of cards off. Alright, so got that Zeus dropping the Leica Void's stats down. And that makes the Elechick very, very much a threat to the Leica Void, as it is going to run us over. And losing the 4 spirits along with it is so... it can be so brutal. Yeah, I just wish I would have had an Elestral, otherwise I would have just summoned it and then played the... to set the altar, rather. And it would have been a lot nicer, too, because you can not only... you can pay off one of the, you know, Leica Void spirits before nexusing another one, too, and then switching the battle position. Would have basically saved my Leica Void, given my other Elestral a spirit, and then also... So again, I do see where it is good. I just haven't had that happen for you just yet. That's why I think more testing might be necessary. Here I am just kind of the greatest player in the world and just top deck the Nabi, you know, very casually. Don't worry, when I say greatest player in the world, I'm being very sarcastic. So after using the Amber there, we can go ahead and find the Doppelgator from our deck. Swing in for 2. Kiso does still have that Zeus up, though. And again, our face-down altar is just really not going to do a lot here. Now, thankfully, Kiso actually had to expend a draw, so... if he had had, like, any Elestral there, honestly, just about any Elestral, that would have been pretty bad for us. Although it would have needed to have... it would have needed to have been a 5, right? Or a Lunar card. Which wouldn't have been a big ask for his deck. I guess Eddie would have done it too, right? Would have put the Doppelgator to defense mode. Zeus would have put it down to 1 defense, and Eddie would have swung for 2. So, yeah. Yeah, Queso was about to Gorgons there, but decided it was better just to take the 2. I'm putting down another face-down card because Queso is committed to setting a face-down at this point, so that tells me it's fairly safe to start committing to my own back row here. It looks like I also had to expend a draw last turn, giving up on an Earth there, the Tyrantlus, because we're at a point where even if we do top deck the Earthquake, I don't know how much it's going to super matter here. Okay, so firing off another Ambrosia here to get back some more Lunar Spirits. Also spending a Lunar to do so. Alright, let's see what we have. Yeah, we're both starting to get pretty low on spirits at this point. I think I'm at 7? Is that what my dice says? Something like that? Okay, looks like Queso's going to commit to playing the Specterus there. It's a shattered, or it's stained glass, rather. It's a stained glass art, so it's a little hard to tell what it is, but it's very pretty. Well, just from the screen, anyway. Anyway, so I'm going to PTA the Specterus here. So with the Zeus, it will still be able to battle over the Doppelganger, because Doppelganger puts it from a 5 down to 2, and PTA also puts Specterus down to 2, but then Specterus raises itself back up to 3. So I will lose my Doppelganger, and I will have to pay out the PTA, but I definitely am going to do so. And at this point, we're both pretty much top decking. I mean, I've got 1 face down and a card in hand. Queso's got 2 face downs, but we're more or less top decking at this point. And looks like I was able to find a Werepup here. Which, even though I've already cast the Leica Void, I think it's not bad at all to Gorgons here. Because the thing is, like, the full moon, even if I don't ascend into the Leica Void, can just give me enough spirits to, with how low Queso's deck is, just like one-shot him, right? And not only that, but the Gorgons there also prevents the attack as well. So he's basically just spending 1 extra there to not let me search the full moon, which I think was worth it. Queso going for his own Werepup, searching his own full moon here. Bearing in mind that he does still have the Leica Void in his deck, but he also only has 2 spirits left in his spirit deck. So at this point, it's kind of a moot point. It's going to set it all the same before passing back over. And then drawing for turn, we're going to find a... Wait for it. Galaxy, and that is going to be enough to ultimately... get Queso to concede here. Yep, so that is going to be it for this game. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more Elestrals content. If I get a good response, I will definitely make a greater effort to get you more. But for now, that is going to do it. This is Hexlex. I'm going to go ahead and sign out. And also hoping that you have a fantastic day.